what this guy is doing in this particular example, um, notice he's doing this without a constructor, and he's just basically initializing, all the variables in code. So it shows you, a point that makes sense to me about classes is that, if you're just going to have a constructor that does nothing but assign values to members, when the object's created, why not just do this? Because again, a constructor can only be run once, right? Or at least in C++ that's the case. Um, so, and that's only when you're creating the object. Well, here this is done, when you're creating the object too, by just assigning these, initial values to it. So, I mean, this is simpler than going and creating a constructor. But a constructor, you should create when you need something more complex done, like to set up a random number generator, or, assign member variables in a complex way, or even run one of the member functions, um, from the get-go, automatically. So, otherwise, you should go ahead and just initialize it like he's doing here, um, in at least in the situation where, you got, relatively simple values, because like I said, if you end up with a lot of members, fuck, you're not going to want a goddamn constructor with like 50 variables in it. That would be crazy, Um, but in an actual constructor, one of the things you can do is actually go initialize variables to a preset value inside the constructor if you want. And I'm sure just like in C++, you can actually initialize the variables, themselves too. I mean, I'm sure you could probably do that here. Like, int, x equals 5, and, int y equals, 10 or whatever as a startup position, for example. Um, so that sets it to an initial value, which is default for the class in general. So anyway, it's just an interesting observation, though. But this gives you another, way that, instead of going through the trouble of creating a constructor, if you're just going to assign some, initial values, this might be a better way of doing it. Because a constructor, unless you overload it, would force you to enter that data, but you may not want to, for some reason. But at any rate,